Hey, what you guys are about to see is taken from an hour plus long session with Panomtuanlek Hapalang. He was gym mates with Chmok Pet and Diesel Noi. He is one of the three kings of Muay Khao, of the golden age and forever. He's fighter of the year in 1986. He's absolutely incredible, and this is one of my favorite sessions in the Muay Thai Library, so I hope you guys enjoy this. But here he's demonstrating what he was talking about earlier about getting your opponent into the ropes. Mun in Thai is to kind of like pivot out to the side. So you'll see this in femur when you're like dodging someone, but it's also if you grab someone and you pivot to the side of them. Mun is to like pull them around. So he's saying if you let go of their head, the opponent will run away. So you want to like catch them and pivot and knee and pivot and knee and basically just never let them out. He's saying if you pull without bringing your leg, it'll just off balance both of you. You have to pivot around with your leg becomes like a rudder. So see how my foot has to go basically to the side of his foot, and then the half of my body that's holding his neck is all one piece, and I pivot around to the side. So I'm asking him, does it matter how low you dip the head? And he says where you end up kneeing is going to depend on how low the head is. If the head is up higher, you're kneeing into the solar plexus. If the head is down lower, you can just knee into the head.
Super acceleration.
Oh my God, it's so powerful. So this word dang, he uses this word dang quite a bit. Dang sapok, which means to kind of like, it means to like pop the hip, but it's this thing about pressure. It's like water pressure, how water pressure can like shoot something out. This kind of like stiffening of the guard or stiffening of the leg, it's to kind of like set something in position. So he's saying push a knee, turn a knee. Basically, you're constantly off-balancing your opponent and then landing a knee on it. So after kneeing him is when I can kind of adjust my position if I need to. You don't want to try to change position when your opponent is able to respond. You want to off-balance them first or knee them first so that they're in a state of recovery when you move. These guys. So he's saying that you have to have a very tight grip on the neck. See how he looks like Blanca there? How he kind of like is like wrenching down? He's pinching his forearms together. Diesel Noi also has this incredible pinch. You cannot get out of it. Diesel Noi has really, really long forearms. Panomtuanlek is, you know, kind of like spidery. He's got kind of long arms, but they're not crazy long. But his pinch is insane. And then he's kind of like wrenching down a little bit. He said to catch kind of right at the jaw under the ear. It's the same thing as when you stick your head through like bars. Once you get past your ears, you can't come back out because that's where you have this bottleneck taper. So you grab down at the thinner part, and people cannot pull their head out. Is inescapable. See it how he turns the pinky side of his fist into his own chest. Remba was the first person who ever taught me this, that you kind of like do an uppercut. When you hook the arm, you basically do an uppercut to yourself. Panomtuanlek turns it even more, so you're kind of twisting your bicep a bit. He's saying this does not use any power to lock somebody, but it uses a lot of energy for the opponent to try to get out of it. So if you go behind the elbow, which is a very good place to go, it's a very good place to lock. The way to get out of this is to put your fist on your own belly like this and kind of come out. He's saying you can do this with just the hand when they grab only the forearm. The caveat here is that you have to get out fast. You either have to tire them out, they've been holding your arm for a while, and then you can make your escape, or you have to do it before they get a really good lock. Because he can hold that lock like a bulldog locking its jaws, like he is not coming out of that.
แต่ถ้าคนไม่รู้นะบางทีไปดึงอย่างเดียวมันก็เดี๋ยวดึงอย่างเดียวมันก็ไม่ออก
He's saying if people just try to pull, they'll never get out, especially with a glove on. But pulling and pulling is just going to tire you out and you'll never get out. You have to have this kind of like, it's a little bit how in like self-defense or karate or whatever, if someone has like a wrist lock on you, there are escapes to that wrist lock. Most of it is like twisting. It's that same thing where you want to kind of like create leverage and angles to get out. I can't get out. It hurts a little bit too as he's coming out. He twists very, very calmly and just kind of like finds his way out.
มวยเข่านี่เยอะจับคอล็อกแขนจับตีเยอะ
So he's saying this is really important for Muay Khao, is to be able to lock and pull and grab the neck, hook the arms. Basically, you're trying to keep someone at this range all the time. It's a Simba making a brief appearance. So he's saying lak is balance. So one of the reasons I said earlier to watch his feet all the time is that balance is super important when you're carrying someone else's weight and you're trying to off-balance someone else. You have to have like really measured movements. The thing he's doing with his knees right here at this distance is really interesting to me because this is not a great position. This is a 50-50 position. If I can throw a knee into him, he can throw a knee into me. So what he does to create a slight advantage in this 50-50 position is that he has better balance. He has wide stance, and then he pops his hip, he hinges his hip ever so slightly. See this posture he has? And then he's pulling me a little bit into his knee. So he's not standing super upright and launching it like this, like kind of a lean back rocking chair. He's hinged and kind of like ripping me. Oh, look how straight.
But it's straight.
ไม่ใช่นั่นแหละครับนั่นแหละมันน่ากลัว
You can see how it's coming out of the ribs there. No wind up. So I'm making this point about Chumok Pet. Like if you're watching the chest, you actually have no idea where anyone's going because they're not telling with their chest.
ก็ไปกระแทกโผล่ก็เหมือนภาษาก็ไปเท่ากระแทกเหมือนกันครับดีๆฮะสุดๆบับชังหาบับชังหานั่นแหละบับชังหา1 2ชังหา1 2นี่ถ้าเป็น1 2ว่าอันนี้สัก 5% อันนี้สัก 95 เลย
So he's saying if you're going to throw a 1-2, like a jab cross, 5% on the jab, 95% on the cross. The jab is just a setup for the cross. So I'm not doing like a 100% 1, 100% 2. It's understanding what that jab is for. So he's saying once you've done the 5% and then 95%, now you can throw another cross. You can just keep coming with those crosses. You don't have to reset up for it. He's saying if you're going to throw just the jab, 100% on the jab. But for 1-2, you split it between what you're actually trying to land. That's because his back is touching the ropes. He's saying if your balance is good, then your weapons will be tight, will be solid. He's like, if your balance is no good, nothing has power or speed on it. Balance was really important in scoring for a very, very long time, and it's less important now, but in Thailand it's still a solid point of scoring. Okay, so what you guys just saw is just an excerpt taken from the hour-plus long session with Panomtuanlek. He was Fighter of the Year in 1986. He was 115 and 118 pound champion at Rajadamnern, and then became 122 pound champion at Lumpini. He fought the best of the best in the Golden Age. He's absolutely incredible. He's one of my all-time favorite fighters, and this is, again, one of my favorite sessions in the Muay Thai Library. There's so much to learn in this full hour-long plus session with Panomtuanlek. You could watch it a million times and learn something each time. And in the long-form training sessions that we use in the Muay Thai Library, we now have more than 160 hours of long-form training. So if you would like to see the rest of this session, you can do so in the Muay Thai Library, and there's tons to learn there. Click on the link in the description below if you're not yet a patron. It's very easy to become one. So, some things to look out for in this Muay Thai Library session, and there's a lot going on in this session. I want to kind of maybe give an overall disclaimer about when I say what to look for. These are just kind of highlighted pieces of things that I think were really interesting that I can draw out from a session. But what's so amazing about the long form of these training sessions is that you can watch them over and over again and actually find new things or kind of deeper understanding of things every time you watch it, because a lot is being taught kind of all at once. I try to bring in my voiceover translations and kind of highlight what literally is being taught in that moment, or kind of bring out what is being emphasized. But oftentimes there's a lot going on all at once, and being able to kind of go through and sift through and be like, oh, now I kind of really understand what that is, allows you to be able to watch these many times and get a lot more out of it every time you watch. I get something out of it every time I watch, and I find new things. There's a lot being taught in this session all throughout, so there's a lot to learn from this session for sure. I recommend that you watch Panomtuanlek's legs, like watch his feet, his knees, and his kind of overall root. He has incredible weight transfer. His balance and his weight transfer is just perfection, and it comes from this like bow in his knees, and he has these very strong legs that kind of balance him all the time. Having good balance is what allows you to be able to bring your weapons out and kind of control yourself and control your opponent when you're ripping them around. Panomtuanlek, in his style, is ripping people around all the time. Not only was he Muay Khao, but he is a clinch fighter, and his clinch is just relentless and incredible. So watch his legs and his knees in showing how this weight transfer works in order to get as much as you can out of what he's actually doing, or how he's doing the things that he's trying to teach me in this session. So look for Nen. Nen is one of the first things that I cover. It's one of the first things that gets brought up in the library session, but it gets brought up many times because he keeps saying it throughout the session. It's a Thai word that does have direct meanings in English, but the way that it's being used here is a little bit more tricky to understand exactly what that means as he's asking for it. Nen means to like emphasize, or to kind of like underscore, or to kind of have something be really distinct. And the way that he's using it here is kind of like the English slang, when something's tight, like, oh, that's tight. That's a tight little like punch, whatever. Like, it's very powerful and distinct. And I think that overall, like when you look at what he means by this, not by each individual time that he uses it, but overall what Nen means and what he's asking for in this session when he brings it up is what I would call legibility. So it's having your strikes be legible from the back row. It's a little bit like stage acting versus like film acting. So with stage acting, everything has to be kind of bigger because you need to be able to, from far away, pick up on these kind of gestures in order to be able to read what's happening on the stage. Whereas with film, everything can be very kind of subtle, you know, face twitches, things like this. So the Nen that he's talking about, for me, what I would kind of translate that as in a non-slang way is legibility. And he uses it for this kind of, the next thing to look at, which is this acceleration on the ends of things. Chmukpet and Diesel Noi both also share this, which is that the strike isn't necessarily slow at the beginning, but it's slower at the beginning than it is as it's hitting its target. It really just has this like punctuated acceleration on the end. It's really, really noticeable on his knees. It's really beautiful, but he also has this weight transfer of kind of like dropping in on his punches and they come straight forward in the same way that they do from like Pet Yin D fighters. There's not a lot of wind up and things like this. Everything is very kind of like weight transfer forward. Something that you can see in Panomtuanlek's fights and that he works with me on this session is don't let go ever. As I was saying, there are Muay Khao fighters who don't necessarily clinch that well or that much. Panomtuanlek absolutely is a clinch master, and when he hitches his trailer, when he gets his grip on you, when he grabs you, he never ever lets go. The ref is the only person who might come and save you unless you get knocked out. Like, he just does not let go. And a lot of how he's able to do that has to do with the way that he's moving his feet, the bend in his knees, this balance that I was talking about before. So you really need to watch his feet and his legs as he's teaching how to not let go in that part of the don't let go thing to look out for. Again, he has this kind of like drop down bowed thing. This is part of how he gets reach on his strikes, as well as how he accelerates on the end of them. He has this really beautiful, especially with his elbow, you can see he's like a superhero. He kind of like drops down to emphasize on the ends of these things. And not only is it really beautiful from a distance, it's that legibility where everyone's like, ooh, watching it. But up close, when you're the one receiving it, it's really a way to like add power from very, very close distance. And as a Muay Khao fighter, everything is going to be very short distance. So how he does this kind of accordion, like creating distance and then snuffing it, is kind of in line with, but the opposite of, the way that he's using this short distance drop down in order to create power. His accordion grip, like he has this very long grip in the clinch of how he locks the neck. Dieselnoy has it as well, but Panomtuanlek really spends a lot of time working with me on it. It's a little bit hard to learn from watching. It's something that you can absolutely feel when you get it put on you, but then it's hard to imitate. So like you've felt it and you kind of have a concept for this like pinching. You can feel what that pinching is like, but it's very hard to kind of like get this lock in of the forearm. So pay a lot of attention to like how his positioning is creating those leverages and angles that you cannot escape from this long grip. He also has shorter kind of locks and things like this. He has a beautiful arm hook. The way that he tangles, locks, shuts down, and tires out his opponents in the clinch is just art. It's really beautiful. He also spends a little time when we're on pads talking about how there's speed on the front side, which is all setting up for this back side, which is kind of creating awe. Like you want to be using your front side to kind of quickly juggle your opponent, kind of move them into the distance or the space that you want. And then your power side is just going to be, again, having the judges and the audience just like, oh, like the legibility of these monster strikes. But you don't want anything on the front side, which is setting up for the back side, to be lost. Nothing with him gets swallowed. Nothing is compromised in order for the power to have this kind of like, oh, that's what we were trying to do. Again, legibility, nen, nen, everything is really legible and beautiful and striking in the way that he moves. Everything is very, very clear. So I hope you guys enjoy this session. I absolutely loved it. I loved filming it. I loved watching it beforehand. I loved voicing it. I'm very happy to be getting Panomtuanlek in the Muay Thai Library. When we had dropped him off back with his daughter to go back to Bangkok in the car with Kevin, I said, there's something really beautiful about the fact that even in these kind of like macro forms of Muay Thai, you know, there's different styles of Femur, Mat, De, Khao. These are the like macro styles that within each one of those, there's a lot of nuance. Like Langsawan is a Muay Khao fighter and Samson is a Muay Khao fighter, but they don't fight like each other. Like they don't have the same knees. And you can say this about many different Muay Khao fighters, that they all have this emphasis of knees, but they don't have the same look or feel or kind of emphasis as each other. When I got in the car with Kevin, I said, at this point, after filming with Panomtuanlek, I kind of feel like there have only ever been 3 absolutely true Muay Khao fighters in the history of Muay Thai, and that is these Hopalong fighters. That's Dieselnoy, Chumotpet, and Panomtuanlek. They just have this uniqueness and beauty to their knees that is like absolutely nobody else. And what was so incredible about the golden age is that even though you had fighters who did fit in these macro kind of categories of fighters because they had strong points, they were not isolated to those things at all. They were all very, very well-rounded. They could do everything. And you can see that with Panomtuanlek. He has incredibly beautiful technique. He's very well-rounded. And then he just has these knees that are just going to suck you under and kill you. So thank you, all of my patrons and sponsors who make this possible. I'm very, very happy to be getting him in the Muay Thai Library. I hope you guys love it. And I really hope that we can get more from him in the future.